basic of critical reasoning.
Right.
So what is mean of basic of critical reasoning? Basic of critical reasoning means to understand what is premise, what is conclusion. When you begin your preparation of critical reasoning, your first job is to understand premise.
Okay.
Whole critical reasoning is all about premise, related to premise, and depends on premise. Without premise, reasoning cannot be assumed. Resume.
Oh, yes, yes.
Without premise, reasoning cannot exist. Without premise, reasoning cannot be expected. Hence, first job is to understand premise. There will be different name of premises. However, a piece of information based on fact is called premise. So the premise is nothing, a piece of information based on fact. Therefore, no question against premise. You cannot raise question against premise. You have to believe in. If premise is written, it is a day. You should believe in it's a day. If premise writes or premise is it is night, you have to believe it is night. So no question against premise. Whatever is derived from premise is called conclusion. And now reasoning starts from here. Until it is premise, there is no reasoning. It is fact and we have to believe in. Once premise gives conclusion, reasoning begins from here. Therefore, there are two essential entities of critical reasoning are premise and conclusion. There are two essential entities. They are premise and conclusion. And conclusion is always taken from premise. So a piece of information based on fact is called premise. Whatever is derived from premise is called conclusion. Without understanding premise and conclusion, reasoning cannot be assumed. However, at the beginning you may struggle, but there will be always markers. And those markers are...
Sir, just 1 minute. The premise definition, could you just repeat that once again?
Yes, my dear.
Yes, sir.
A piece of information based on fact is called premise.
Okay.
Whatever we derive from premise is called conclusion.
Okay, sir.
Without conclusion, premise can exist. Without premise, conclusion cannot exist. Without conclusion, premise can exist. But without premise, conclusion cannot exist. Therefore, conclusion is always related to premise and conclusion is a part of premise. Together, when you combine premise and conclusion together, it is given new name and it is called argument.
Right.
When you connect premise and conclusion, it becomes argument.
Okay.
For example, this is an argument.
Right.
This is your conclusion.
Yes.
This is your premise.
Yes.
Individually, they are premise and conclusion.
Right.
Together, they are given one name and it is argument.
Yes.
From hire to savings, premise. From banks to loan, conclusion. Together, they are given a name is called argument. So premise plus conclusion is called argument. However, your first job is to understand what is premise, what is conclusion. There are markers that help to find out premise or conclusion. If sentence begins with because, since, for example, for the reason that, in that, given by, as indicated by, due to, owing to, this can be seen from, we know this by, premise. On the other hand, if sentence begins with thus, therefore, hence, consequently, as a result, so, accordingly, clearly, must be, that, shows that, conclude that, follows that, for that reason, for this reason, they are marker of conclusion. So they are a part of conclusion. However, there is one shortcut. Shortcut is, if you find the structure is X, therefore Y. If you find Y will be conclusion. If it is X because Y, then X will be conclusion and Y will be premise.